All right. It's time for Math Tuesday.
Math Tuesday.
Welcome to Math Tuesday.
And you can't convince us otherwise.
Math Tuesday. And today, we're going to take a look at the top returning passers in Texas high school football in 2020. Top returning passers. Because, by the way,
we should have called it
guys,
like top returning cannons.
Like, by the way, guys, top returning passers means that you're coming back. I had somebody slide into my DMs and be like, hey, you missed so-and-so. He would be number 8 on the list
gosh.
if he was coming back when we did
returning,
the rushes.
A key word being
but
returning.
He graduated.
He ain't coming
returning.
back.
So he did this as an underclassman coming back for another year. And I've got a piece going up on TexasFootball.com about this. And I'm not going to surprise anybody when I say that the passing game in Texas has taken off in the last 20 years. And I always like to find little nuggets that really kind of really illustrate exactly how prevalent passing has become in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, I've got a stat for you.
Ooh.
You ready for stat on Math Tuesday?
Math Stat Tuesday.
So, from 1920 to 2001.
Okay.
The first 81 years of UIL Texas high school football.
Mm-hmm.
There were 41 3,000-yard passing seasons. Okay? There were 41. From 1920 to 2001.
Goodness.
41.
That's a very low number.
Do you know who the first one was? This is an interesting trivia question.
I do not.
First one was Todd Dodge.
How about that?
Port Arthur Jefferson. Yes. That's right. So
it's a guy that knows a thing or two about quarterbacks.
There's a little tidbit. Okay. So there were 41 3,000-yard passers from 1920 to 2001.
So in 80 years.
Last year, there were 45.
Whoa. Man. Boy, howdy.
Last year!
We doubled that. Or, well, we matched it, plus some.
We had more 3,000-yard passers and 4,000-yard passers. More 3,000-yard passers last year
than in the 80-year span before then.
In the entire first 81 years of UIL Texas high school ball, 11-man football, I should say.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild.
That's how football has exploded. It's something like, if you want to break it down, it's something like there are 600 400-yard passers or 3,000-yard passers in the last 20 years compared to 41 in the first 80. Anyway, there's that.
Wild.
So, since there are all these talented signal callers, inevitably some of them are coming back for another year. Mm-hmm. Some for their senior year, some for their junior year. And so, here are the top 10 returning passers in Texas high school football in 2022. We start with the defending state champs in Stephenville. They bring back Ryder Lambert. Ryder Lambert
will not have Coy Aiken,
but he led the state, in much like we talked about Reuben Owens when we did the running thinking and how he's coming back. Ryder Lambert led the entire state in passing in 2021 as a junior. He's coming back.
Wow.
It's the first time. Would you care to guess the last time the state's leading passer of all UIL 11-man quarterbacks, the state's leading passer returned for another season? I'll give you a hint. You worked here.
I worked here, which would make it 2019.
He did it in 2019. He came back for 2020.
Cade Klubnik.
Think big-time receiver that he threw to a lot. We're actually going to talk to a coach in his Rangel,
Garrett Rangel, because he would throw to Marvin Mims.
Exactly right.
Aha.
He threw 48-55 back in 2019, returned for a junior year in 2020. That's the last time we had the state's leading passer returning. He's not the only 4,000-yard passer who's back, though. Chris Teaton, the quarterback from Dublin, the Lions, threw 40-66 yards. And by the way, did it in 3 fewer games than Ryder Lambert did. Now, I think Lambert was getting pulled in a lot of those games. But that's neither here nor there. Very impressive. I think that's a familiar name at number 3. Jackson Arnold is number 3, 39-21.
It's kind of the hot talk of the quarterbacks right now.
But I think the guy next to him, another Denton County guy, is a guy you may not have heard of, and Jacob Wilson, the Byron Nelson quarterback, who threw for 3,916 yards last year. Just 5
and that's a lot fewer games.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then rounding out the top 5 is Mason Shore at Leander Rouse. And I want to spotlight him, 38-13, and of anybody on this list that you see right here, he had the highest completion percentage, over 70% completion there. Mason Shore, number 5.
Coach Mann is not scared to hype that guy up.
Braden Bennett is back at Mount Vernon, throwing for 37-89. Brad Willard's going to be happy to have him back. Desmond Woodson at Marlin is back, 3,636 yards a year ago. Ashton DuBose, probably one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the state. 36-24 last year. He also ran for 943, if you're into that kind of thing. So he is back for the 8th leading passer in UIL 11-man football. Then you have Keldrick Luster. Now, Keldrick Luster threw for 34-35 at Frisco Liberty last year. What's interesting is he's not going to be back at Liberty next year.
He transferred.
He transferred to McKinney, where he will take the controls of Marcus Shavers' offense. It's very interesting to see that. But Keldrick Luster, the 9th leading returning passer in the state, is going to have a new home in 2022.
And Shavers has always had some younger receivers that are finally getting old enough to start making an impact. That's interesting.
And rounding up the top 10 is the only sophomore on the guy only soon to be junior on the list, and Jayden Brown, who took over for Andrew Boddy down there at Corpus Christi Miller, did not skip a beat.
I was going to say they're considered a factory down there in the Coastal Bend at this point.
34-21, he took over that high-powered Miller offense. Overall, there are 22 UIL 11-man quarterbacks who threw for at least 3,000 yards who are coming back for another year. The ones who didn't make the top 10, if you're interested, just outside the top 10, Dripping Springs is Austin Novosad, Connor Cuff from Carthage, and I know we talked with Coach Scott Surratt. I know he's got really high hopes for him to really make that next step there at Carthage after throwing for 33-66 as a junior. Bo Edmondson at Lake Travis is back. So is Dylan Raiola at Burleson. Hondo Franklin, the quarterback at Lovejoy, which is, by the way,
oh god, that's
Lovejoy
so confusing.
Quarterback Hondo
Franklin.
He has 3 high schools in his name.
Oh, sir.
Seminoles Blake Flowers is back. Lubbock Coronado's Jet Carroll is back after throwing for more than 3,000 yards. Tyler Moody at Brock. It's kind of strange to see a Brock quarterback over 3,000 yards passing, but that's the new world under Billy Mathis there at Brock. Southlake Carroll's Caden Anderson is back. Coach Riley Dodge got another one there. Austin Vandergrift's Braden Buchanan is back after throwing for 3,000 yards. Cannon Gibson at Wink, who I think was a 3,000, 1,000 guy. I want to say he ran for 1,000 yards last year, too. And I think he was only a sophomore, but he's back. Anyway, and so is Prosper's Harrison Rosar, who threw for 3,001 yards last year. And so those are the top returning passers in Texas high school football in 2022.
Step made a good point that the only 2 4,000-yard passers are located in the same county, about 15 miles apart.
That's strange. Right?
How wild is that?
Stephenville and Dublin. Something in the water out there in that kind of
that barren wasteland of Texas.
Big country. You'd be nice.
No, it's true. They'll admit it.
That big country west of DFW, southwest of DFW.
Barren wasteland.
Before you get out to Abilene, you got to be nice. So
there's just nothing else out there.
It is interesting. Yeah, you're right. Like, it's same county. And then, by the way, the next 2 are same county, too. Denton Guyer and Byron Nelson. Very interesting to see. And so it's going to be very intriguing to see who's able to kind of live up to this hype. It's been a while since I would need to look up the last time we had a guy finish in the top 10 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So, we're going to see who can kind of live up to that hype. But in any case, those are your top returning passers in Texas high school football in 2022. Check out my piece on texasfootball.com.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on texasfootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to texasfootball.com/subscribe.